a quick intro about me. My name is Naveen. So I am currently working as a DevOps engineer for a company called O9 Solutions in Bangalore. Okay, and my primary role is handling. I worked as a database administrator. I still do DBA related works, and a little bit on DevOps and cloud side in recent years. So, and I'm one of the leader for the MongoDB Bangalore user group. So we run the MongoDB community here. So that's a quick intro about me. Now we'll quickly see like what I covered yesterday. Okay. And one more thing, like I got ping or questions from some folks like what is the course syllabus, or is this part of some training institute? So it is like just an individual contribution. Okay, I'm not associated with any training institute or anything. And course syllabus, there is nothing like course syllabus which I have prepared, but the idea is to cover all the core services, okay, which you would be using it on day-to-day basis. Okay, it will be like compute, networking, storage, databases, security, and monitoring. Okay, these are the core things which, if you look at the Azure administration certification syllabus, these are the key things which will be there. I'm not saying this is the only thing. There are other areas also which is there in the certification roadmap, but I felt okay, this is something which is mainly needed. So I thought like I'll cover that. Okay. So having that said, I'll quickly recap what we discussed. Okay. We talked about like this Azure interface. Okay. This is the my Azure subscription, okay, which I created. So what I discussed yesterday is like whenever you sign up for your free trial account, or when you sign up for Azure, so there is something called tenant, which Azure is going to allocate to you, and you get something called directory. Okay, so if I go to, we have something called Entra ID. Okay, so here you will see all those tenant details. Okay, this is the primary domain which is mapped, and this is basically your unique ID. You can think of something like that. So whenever you sign up for your account, okay, if you're taking your personal account and taking up the free trial, you will basically get a tenant ID. That's the top layer, and within that you will have subscriptions. Okay, so to quickly tell what a subscription is, like it's going to be like your billing is going to happen through the subscription. Okay, think of, let's say you are renting a house in an apartment, right? You will have your separate electricity, water bills and all, right? You will have a separate subscription. So like that, you will by default get a subscription, but you can have more than one subscription associated with a single tenant. Okay, and in between there will be a different layer called management groups and all, like where you can group different set of subscriptions together and all. Since this is a personal account, you will not see that, because you see, right, tenant root group. So you can create a separate management groups and all, and group these subscriptions. Okay, so this is quickly on the subscription side. And then what we covered yesterday is like we saw like creation of VM. And anyways, today also I'm going to create a VM. We are yet to cover other topics, so I'll be showing that again. We saw like how to create a VM, like we just connected, and other things which we saw is like how to, I mean, if you lost access to your VM but you still have admin console, I mean access to the VM from the portal, I showed like how you can reset the password. And we also saw a little bit of network security group, something like what is a network security group and all. Very just a light topic we saw, like I showed like where you can set the inbound rules and all. Anyways, we are going to talk about networking a lot in the future session, but that is another topic which we discussed. I think these are the key things, but yeah, maybe someone, if anyone who attended yesterday can add if I missed to talk about it, like if we covered something yesterday which I didn't tell in this summary. I think I covered all, but yeah, if someone wants to confirm, that will be helpful.
Yeah, Naveen, we covered everything yesterday, what we have discussed.
This is what we discussed, right? Okay, awesome. So today, what we will do is again, like we are going to talk about on the VM side only. Okay. So today, what all things I thought I'll show is we'll talk about like what all things get built when you create a VM, like what all charges will be there apart from the specs, whatever you choose, like what elements gets charged. That is something we'll see, and then we'll talk about the VM family types and all what all we have, and we'll see how you can resize your VM, how you can add your additional data disk, all those things we are going to see. Okay, let's go and create a VM. So to do all these things, obviously we need a VM. Okay, for folks who joined newly today, I'll also quickly show you the VM creation part. So whenever you create any resource in Azure, right? So that is going to be tagged to your subscription, and it is going to be part of some resource group. So resource group is nothing but like you can think of a folder where you're going to put your resources. Okay, and this is like you can think of like we are filling up a form and we'll send it to Azure to create our VM, and we need to pass on few details for the creation of this VM. Okay, that is what we are filling up these details. There are some basic details which we have to give, and that's what we are going to do. And again, there are a whole bunch of different options here which you could see: basic, disk, networking management. We are going to see all of them as well eventually as we progress. For now, I don't have any resource group. Okay, I have done a cleanup of whatever resource group which resources which we created yesterday. So what I will do is I'll just say dev.rg. We can create a resource group from here as well, and I'll name VM1. Okay, now region is something. This is also something which we just touched upon yesterday. Okay, so you are going to decide. Okay, whatever we do, right? All these things are stored in the Microsoft data center, right? So we are just accessing all these things through internet virtually. Okay, so we have to define where my VM is going to be. Okay, I'm choosing the South India, which is closer to me. So in real time, all these things would be decided when you architect things. Okay, in general, it will be closer to your end users. Okay, let's say if you have some applications which is going to run on Azure, so they will deploy all the resources which is closer to the end user. Okay, in our case, so South India region is closer to me, so I have chosen this location. So availability option is something we'll discuss in the later class, but for now I'm skipping it. Okay, now coming to images, this is where you will define what kind of operating system you're going to put in your virtual machine. Okay, so if I click on see all images, this is going to give me whole bunch of different um, images which are available from the marketplace. In our case, like I will go with Ubuntu server. Okay, for this one, I'll pick probably 22. I think the recent is 24. Yeah, which is already selected here. So I'm okay with this. Okay. Now comes the VM family size, right? This is one thing which I wanted to talk about. Let's click on all size, because yesterday I think we would have picked some default size, but let's see all size, right? And I'll say I don't want this grouped output. Okay, basically this default data is grouped based on VM size, but I don't want that. Okay, I just remove that grouping. Now, if you see here, okay, so there are like what it's showing 692 VMs, but there are like more than that, because like some VMs are not directly visible. Okay, but I'm sure like there will be more than that. But let's look at the types, right? This is what we are interested in. Okay, what I will do is I'll add a filter here. Okay, and let's say I'll add a type, and by default, whatever we are seeing here, this is for general purpose, okay, which in general you will not see your production workloads in real time running with general purpose, okay, very less chances, okay. But this is mostly used for your all dev and testing. Like if you want to play around something, you people would go for general purpose. But there are like whole bunch of other types, okay. So some of the important things which you should be aware is like compute optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized, okay. Other things, confidential compute and all, it's more of like this gives better encryption, okay, but we'll not see all these things, but mostly we'll deal with these things only. GPU, again, as the name suggests, like you get GPUs attached to the VM and all. And again, high performance is, you will get more computation power, but we'll look at these three elements, right, which is commonly used. Now I'll select compute optimized, okay. Now in this, if you look, um, each VM type, okay, they have a different set of series which will be allocated, okay. In this case, it says request for quota, okay. So yesterday, one more thing which I discussed is about this quota, okay. Especially if you are using free tier account, you will not have quota to create more than one account like that, okay. So if you go to your subscription, here you will have something called usage and quota, okay. I just thought, okay, I'll quickly show that again because this is important. If you don't have enough quota, let's say by default you get um, a set of CPU only, okay. Again, for each region there are like quotas applied. That's why, like for this VM series and all, I don't have quota to create, okay, which means I cannot create this type of VM with my current subscription. But this is like a soft limit, okay. If I have to show you, like I just showed this email yesterday. What you can do is you can also request for quota, okay. Mostly like for free trial account they might not give, okay. I couldn't recollect, but mine is pay as you go. So I requested for quota, and if you see, like I all we have to do is, okay, I'll quickly show, if we, I will see if we can do it live, right. I'll say request quota. Let's see if it goes to the support page. There are like cases directly the quota gets increased, okay. But for some cases, it will say, okay, you have to submit a support request, and that is what happened here. Probably I'll show at the end. We'll not spend more time for now. I'll show at the end if time permits, okay. But you'll be able to submit a support request, okay, and this gets immediately approved for most of the cases. If you see, you will get an email like this, okay. This I did like 5 days back, where I increased the quota limit for the South India location, okay, for region for me. Okay, if I have to show you, let's see, South India, I'll apply. Okay, if you see, right, I have like 18 regional vCPUs. By default, you get 10. So I increase the spot CPU also. Okay, will spot is nothing but, probably I'll talk about spot also now. But we'll going back to this series, right? I'll again go back to no grouping, which we had. We got slightly deviated from the actual topic. We let me add the filter again. Okay, I wanted to, not generation. I'll go with the type, and let's select this compute. Okay, so for this VM series, I have to request for quota. Okay, and the other details what you see in this window is like type, what type of VM family we are checking, how many CPUs, how many RAMs, and this talks about the data disk, which we'll see in a while, okay, what this number indicates. And then you have something called max IOPS, okay. For this max IOPS is also going to be important when you architect things in real time, because if your application is IO intensive and all, right, so you have to see uh, if there is a requirement which you have to meet. Let's say I need this much IOPS to run my application, okay, especially for database servers and all, like they will need a certain IOPS for better performance, okay. So this is a key factor which has to be considered when you design things. And okay, anyone wants to say like what is this IOPS refers to? I just want to know because I don't know if everyone knows, but let's keep this as an open question. Like if anyone wants to tell what is this IOPS means.
For the disk input output activity.
Okay, but we are not talking about disk, right? Any reason why Microsoft has given it here?
Based
It's
on
the
that,
boot
the
disk.
speed, disk speed is increased.
It's the boot disk.
Okay, boot disk. Okay, what was that other answer someone told? Like based on this, disk speed increases.
Read and write activity will be increased on this.
Okay, but okay, my question is more of like we are talking about VM specification, right? We are talking about CPU and RAM, right? But what is this? Why they have given IOPS here? Any idea?
Because it's a different type of machine that's under a quota limit. Machine is specified to high input output operation speed.
Okay, okay, fine. Okay, I'll just park this question here. When we talk about disk again, we'll come to this topic. Okay.
Or does it use a different file system inside?
Sorry, what is that, Ajay?
A different file system.
Okay, file system. Okay, 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 fine. Yeah, we'll keep those answers for now. Okay, again, we'll come to this. Okay, when we talk about data disk and all, like we'll
Or
come to
is
this
it
part.
SSD or HDD? Persistent disk and
Uh,
zonal disk. Those ones. Regional disk. Like in GCP.
Okay, okay. Yeah, in GCP you'll have that local SSD, HDD and all, right? So here also you have different types of disk, which we'll see. Okay. Yeah. So we'll come to this again in a while. I just thought of quickly checking. Okay. But IOPS here refers to input output operations, right? So for a disk, like what is the max input output operations per second? That's what it is referred here. And you also get something called local storage. Okay, so how many of you think this IOPS is for this local storage? Anyone is having that guess, like whatever IOPS they have given, this is for this local storage?
When you create the VM, like based on the VM, the Microsoft give the local storage,
Okay,
which is it cannot be extended. It is a permanent one.
okay, it's a permanent one, is it?
Yes, that even mm, like some of the VM you will have the T drive, like the
Okay,
temporary drive, which cannot
okay,
be deleted or I'm not sure. I never requested for the increase those
okay,
spaces, local storage, but it is permanently available on those, even if it is server restart or something.
okay, okay, fine. We'll see this in practicals. Okay, when we launch, we are going to look at this. Okay, so this is what is that sound? Okay, I don't know. Fine, fine, Ajay. Yeah, we'll see that. Okay, so local storage is something which we get for some set of VM. Again, it depends on you have to see. Once you understand what this is, you will get to know. Which I'll show you in. Okay, instead of talking theoretical, I'll show. And then you have something called like in case of disk, right? You have different types of disk which are available. So here it says like if this given VM supports premium disk or not, and it is also giving you what is the rough estimate cost for this computation like CPU and RAM alone. Okay, these are the basic info which is available in general for any VM type, right? So in this case we have chosen compute optimized, right? So in this, if you see, like we have VMs of different CPUs and a portion of memory allocated. For example, in this case, if I can say like for each CPU, I'll have like 2 GB of RAM, right? So if I do that ratio, 1:2, I can say something like that. Similarly, now if I change, okay, let's check memory optimized, right? In case of memory optimized, right, you will be able to get that higher ratio. For one CPU, I'll get starting as like 8 GB RAM. So if your application is memory intensive, they usually go for this so that you don't need more CPU, but you need more memory. Okay. So that's why there are set of VMs which are basically in E series. You see all these are like, again, I mean, it's difficult to remember all these numbers, but just remember what is the use case. Usually they refer to this ratio, CPU to RAM ratio. So in this case, if you see like 2 CPUs and 16 GB RAM, okay, and again like IOPS is going to vary. For example, let's quickly check, right? I'll change this. Let's go to compute for 2 CPU. Okay, let's take this one, 2 CPU and 16 GB RAM, right? We get 4000 IOPS in this case. Okay, let me change to memory optimized. So in this case, if you see for 2 CPU, 16 GB RAM, we get only 3200 IOPS. Okay, because these are optimized for memory intensive applications. Now, if I go to storage optimized, right? Let's see what we have. So in case of storage optimized, it is starting with 4 CPU, but look at the IOPS. It's starting with 5000 IOPS. So you get all the this VM type itself is different for which will be perfect fit for applications which are more IO intensive. Okay, so depending on your application behavior, that's how your architects are going to choose what type of VM family they are going to run the application. Okay, so this is a short info about the VM family types. Okay, now I'll close this. We'll go back to the VM creation. But yeah, any questions before I proceed? It is like more of a theory part. Yeah.
Yes, you told us about the local storage. Does it mean it is fixed to those particular machine types, those values?
Yes.
Local storage given value, like
Yes.
8 GB, 4 GB for. Okay.
Correct. It is. I'm going to show you in practicals, like what is the use of that. Okay. Okay. So let's proceed. But yeah, feel free to stop me. Okay. If any questions, I'll just say VM1 and I'll go with the same specs. Let's see. This is the VM I'm going to choose. Okay. If you see data disk and there is a local storage of 16 GB. Okay. And the premium disk is supported. This is the VM size I'm going to, VM family I'm going to choose. Okay. This is under general purpose. A quick note about Spot, right? So Spot instance is nothing but like there is no guarantee your VM would be always available. Okay, so whenever like these cloud providers, right, they will have, let's say, a bunch of hardwares available, okay, in their data center, and if there could be some point where they'll have hardware which is not utilized, right? So those hardwares they will put this for Spot instance so that for your testing things and all you can use, but there is no guarantee like this would always be running, because if you see, this is like you bid for a lower price. Okay, they are just giving you for a cheaper rate the excess hardware whatever they have in their data center. Okay, but anytime if there is a need where they have to give more hardware to the other customers, or it could be like other users, they have all the rights to just terminate or delete your VM depending on what you set here. Okay, that is the use of this Spot instance. If you're playing with Azure and all, like you can just explore this. Let's say if you are done with your free trial account, you can just use this spot instance if you're practicing something and all. Let's say if I want to test something with higher VM specs and all. Now, if you see, if I remove that, it's like estimated cost. Okay, there is an echo. Okay, no, it's fine. And as soon as I click on this, now you see it came down to $18. Okay, this is like monthly cost. But the downside is I don't know when, for how long this VM would be up and running. Anytime they can stop or delete depending on what policy I set. Okay. So in real time, people use this for batch processing and all, like which is not, or if your application is not dependent on state where you don't want to store or persist anything. So for those things and all, they use the spot instance to reduce the cost. But for now, I'll just skip it. Okay, and we'll go with the password-based authentication. Okay, and let's set the password. So again, like in Azure, you have these two options. With SSH also, you can configure with password-based authentication also. In case of AWS, by default, you get only SSH-based VM creation. But still, once the VM is up and running, you can go and configure password-based authentication also. But Azure, you have these options here only. Okay. Here we'll talk about this. This comes under the network security group, okay, where you define what ports are allowed. We'll talk about more about this in the networking section. But for now, just remember, okay, this is like a firewall. I'm just telling, okay, allow SSH port, which is 22, since this is a Linux Ubuntu VM. Okay, if I want to connect, I need SSH port to be open. Okay. Then comes the disk part. Okay, by default, for Ubuntu VM OS type, we get 30 GB, but for Windows, I think yesterday we saw it is like 127 GB. Okay, so this is the OS disk, and if you see, there are different storage types also which is available. Okay, and it is nothing but like standard HDD is like very slow, and premium SSD is super fast. Standard SSD is like in between those two. So for each disk type, you get different throughput and IOPS. That's what it indicate. But what is the numbers and all? You can refer the documentation. Okay, but just know there are different types of storage types which are available. Premium SSD is fast, and you also have for data disk Ultra SSD. Okay, which we'll see. That is even faster than premium SSD, where you get set of IOPS which is already provisioned, which we'll see when we talk about the data disk. For now, I'll go with this, and rest all will not worry. We'll go with the defaults. Okay, because now I wanted to show you about the temp disk, which we talked about it. And when I go to the end, so this is the estimated cost of this VM per hour. Okay, before I create the VM, I told we'll talk about the cost things and all, right? So if you remember, let's go here, right? Again, I'll go to this VM page only. I just want to show you one screen. So we will go with the same image, and I'll click on all size. Okay. Now, if you see, I just want this cost to be loaded. Okay, this is like 98.55 US dollars, right? This is per month. But if you see the overall cost, now it is coming like 102. Okay, which means there are other costs also which is involved, right? For let's see what other costs are available, right? We'll go through these things. And from yesterday's demo, when we create a virtual machine, there are other components also which gets created. Like you will have a public IP if you have defined by default. Whatever I have said, it's going to create a public IP, which you can see here. Okay, that's the default behavior. So you will have a public IP created when you create a VM, or you basically have a network interface card also, which is attached, because that is the component which is going to hold your IP address for the VM. Okay, and additionally, you will also have a OS disk. Okay, these are the other components which gets created. Now, if you see, there is a cost associated for the CPU and RAM which you have chosen. Okay, based on the size. So in this case, it is standard D2S V3. Then, if we go down, there is a cost for your public IP. Okay, so public IP is going to expose your VM to internet. Okay, which means from internet I can talk to that VM. Okay, so that's the need for public IP on a shorter note here, and there is a charge involved in that. Okay, a quick info about public IP, right? If you are wondering what it is, like, if so, I told you these resources, whatever we are requesting, right? This is from Microsoft data center, right? So they are going to rent us these resources from their data center. So since we want to access all these things from a virtual place in a remote location, so this communication happens through internet. So anything which goes through internet, it will basically have an identity, right? So that is the public IP here. So using this public IP, I can talk to my VM. Okay, though there are other ways also, like where this is not a secured way, but since we are learning things, we are just going to use this public IP. And there is also going to be a cost involved for your data transfers also. For example, if I increase this to 1 TB, okay, you see there is a cost involved. By default, you get some portion uh, of data. Okay, this price again, it's going to vary for regions also. Okay, so but just remember there is a cost involved for your public IP, and for if you're uploading or downloading data, those comes under the data transfer part. And apart from these things, there are no other costs which are additionally available. But if you add additional disk, right, data disk, which we haven't done, we'll do after launching this VM separately. But there is an additional cost which will also be added. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create this VM. Additionally, I'll also create one more VM while this is going on. Let's quickly do. So whatever I have created now, it is a Ubuntu OS, right? We'll create one more VM. Probably we'll choose Windows VM operating system for that. And what I will do is I'll go with the same specs. Let me put my name and a password. Is matching. Okay. So for Windows, right, the operating system is licensed, right? So if you are coming from on-prem where you already have a OS license, you will get additional discount, okay, which you can apply, and there is a separate process for that. But just remember, you can make use of that license. So this is under the Azure hybrid benefit, because Azure with this, right, they will encourage people to move to Azure. That's the reason they give additional discount. Because if you see right now it is like $173. As soon as I click, it drops down to 98, right? So you get benefits in those cases. Okay, if you already have a license. Now what I will do is I'll go and create it. Let's go to the last section directly, because rest all I don't want to discuss for now. The other VM got created. So this is the notification window where you can see what is going on. And I like one point which I mentioned yesterday is after clicking on create, I don't have to stay on the same window. I can just go and do other things. I'll see the notification here. Even though if I close this window, I can come back and check these things later as well. Okay. So we got the first VM created. What I will do is I'll copy this public IP. Okay. And let me open command prompt, and you can do SSH, username, whatever you have defined, and the IP. So you can also get this same connection string by going to the connect option, and this is going to give you this. Okay. So for Linux VM, you can do SSH and connect. And if at all, if you are facing any problem with the connection, they have, I mean, this was not there before. Okay. Now they have given this option from this window only. You can check the connectivity. For example, this again we'll talk in the networking section, but since this is available here, I thought I'll quickly tell. So in you have something called network watcher. Okay. From there, usually the troubleshooting and all can be done, but here they have given this small utility here only. It's going to directly detect my public IP, which is here, and this is the destination VM public IP, and this is my laptop, my network public IP. It's checking if from this machine, if this VM is accessible or not. Okay. Now we know this is the connection string, and let me give the password. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We are inside the VM. Okay, so this is the Ubuntu VM, right? One thing which we wanted to discuss is about the storage. So how can I check what are the drives which are attached in this VM? Any guess? Like anyone wants to tell what command it would be? If I want to check the free space,
df-h.
H. Okay, let's do right. So if you see, um, so these are the different mounts which are in this server. Okay. And if you remember, based on the VM specs, whatever we have chosen, we have this 16 GB temp disk, right? That's what we thought, right? Not temp, a local disk. Okay. What I will do is let's probably to make things easy, I'll do a sudo, and it is mnt. Okay, wait, df-h. Okay, this is the our 16 GB drive, right? What I will do, let's create some directory. Okay, I'll say dev, and inside dev, I'll create some file. Okay, I'll say test.txt, and we'll just keep this file. That's it. Okay, we have a file inside the dev directory. Now I'll go one step back. Let's see what other things are available. Okay, we have a file which we haven't created. Okay, we just created dev. Okay, and it says, I mean, the file name itself says it says data loss warning readme.txt. Okay, let's look at this file, right? What it says. So if you see, warning, this is a temporary disk. Any data stored on this disk is subject to loss, and there is no way to recover. Okay. So which means whatever data we put in this mount or in this drive, which is mounted in MNT folder, it is all temporary. Okay. Let me go back to this window now. So they have given us local storage, right? So what happens is the reason why they have given this option is, uh, or how this is different from your normal OS disk is, OS disk or any data disk which you attach, right? So that can be deallocated, but this is tightly coupled with your VM itself. Okay, and this is like always super fast. Okay, compared to your other disk, again, like your IOPS is controlled, but this is like a ephemeral disk, which is mean it's like a temporary disk which they give. Okay, for people if you are from the SQL background, right? Since I know like most of them in this crowd are from SQL background, but I'm just telling in case of SQL Server, you can think of like putting your temp.db in this disk, because you don't have to worry about the data. Even though if there is a restart of the server, the files gets recreated, right? So in this case, like these drives have different use cases depending on your application. SQL is one example which I just told, but this is a temporary disk. It is clearly written. There is a warning, and they have put a clear message here. Now, what I will do is I'm going to restart the VM. Okay. Before that, I'll quickly show. This is the path mnt, and inside this we have a folder called dev, and I created something called test file. This is empty, okay, but still it is still a file. What I'm going to do, let's restart this VM, and it should get restarted in just a minute. While that is going on, we will also check what happened to our Windows VM. Okay, we launched another VM, right? Let's go to virtual machine VM, and this is also ready. What I will do is probably, so to connect to a Windows VM, you can use this remote desktop connection client, or if I go here also, like in case of Linux, it gave it's a SSH. For Windows, it's going to be remote desktop client, and this is the port which is needed for RDP. Okay, so here what I will do, like MSTSC is another shortcut which will open the same window. Okay, and I'll copy the destination VM, and I'll put the IP here. And if I hit on enter, it should give me a prompt where I can enter the username. And let's put this. And that's how you can take a remote connection to a Windows VM. Okay. Let that be open. Okay. We'll come to the Windows part in a while. Now, okay. It says successfully restarted. Okay. Our connection should have closed. Yes, as expected. What I will do is let's do a SSH again. Okay, let me give the password. Okay, so I hope like we all read the message clearly what it was written, right? Inside the MNT, we read this message, right? Data loss. Okay, so with this message here, okay, how many of you think the folder which we have created and the file which we have created should be deleted now? Do you all agree like the folder which we created would be deleted? Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Let's see. Okay, I see my folder and I see my file as well. So why then they have to give a file which says data loss, warning, readme, and they have given a clear message, right? So any guess, anyone, like if you have worked with Azure, like anyone knows like why this didn't get removed?
When the server get restarted, there might be a possibility to the files get deleted.
Okay, but we did restart, right? But still we see the files.
Yeah, whenever
Maybe
required,
server-
uh,
Okay.
yeah, whenever they doesn't have any space or something, at the time they will remove from.
Okay. Okay, but here, if you see, nowhere they have mentioned anything about space or anything, right? They just told this is a temporary disk. Any data stored here is subjected to loss, and do not use this disk for storing things and all. So, any other guess?
If the VM get deallocated or getting failure from the one zone to another zone, so those files will be not available. I think so.
Okay, okay. So, someone raised the hand. Satish, okay, that's 38 minutes back. I'll lower your hand if. Okay, thank you. I just like that, so that's fine. Okay, so what happened here is, okay, basically you should not keep anything here, anything which is useful. Okay, why it didn't get cleared is, okay, to explain that, what I will do is, this time instead of restart, I'm going to stop this VM. Okay, so restart is like you stop and start, right? It is same. How many of you agree? Like, restart is nothing but you stop and then manually start it. Do you agree with this statement? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So this time we'll do something like, I'll take the longer route, right? I'll manually stop the VM first, then I'll manually start. So now it is stopped, then I will start. Okay. Now let's see what happened. Okay. I think this should be up soon. Okay, it is started, right? I'll do SSH. It is still starting. Okay. It is still not up. What happened? Okay. Okay. Now ls gone. Okay. Now if you see the dev folder itself gone, which means our file is also gone. Okay. So what happens is, in Azure, when you restart, your VM will not get deallocated. If you see the status, right, it is running. Okay. And if I stop, you see this message, right? Deallocation happens. Okay. So when this deallocation happens, if you stop and start the VM, right, like this, that is when that data gets wiped out. Now, if you see deallocating, restart, when you do restart, it will not do this deallocation. Okay, that is one key difference in this case. So that is what has happened here, and that's why, like, when I did stop and start, uh, now if you see, it is deallocating. Let's refresh. Okay, once it stopped, it says deallocated. So that is the key thing. There is a difference between restart and if you do stop and start. So another thing what you have to remember is, like, sometimes, okay, if you are troubleshooting some problems and all, right, some odd problems, if you do restart, it will start from the same physical host where this VM was initially created. Okay, but assume there is a problem in the physical host where the VM is sitting. Okay, so in that case, you if you want directly, you don't have control to move from that physical VM. But what Azure support team usually recommend is, if you stop the VM and start it, Azure backend, they will automatically take care of launching the VM from the new physical hardware. If at all, talking if the underlying physical host is having some problem. In that case, right? So in some cases, Azure team would recommend you do stop and start, so that that will fix that problem. It will start the VM from the healthy VM. Okay, this is like some rare case, okay, which we have seen, and that's something which they recommend in those cases. Okay, so that's the thing about this. local storage. Okay, this is like a local again. I think someone mentioned you cannot change the size, so this is a fixed size. Depending on the VM spec what you choose, you get this. Okay, let's say if the 64 GB is fully occupied, you cannot resize this disk. Okay, which means you don't have direct control to the space what is allocated, or if you cannot extend also. Okay, so this comes with the VM series. If I go with a different VM series, again there are some VMs which you don't see this local storage also. Okay, again depending on your application usage, etc., your architect would decide whether do we need this or not. Okay, any questions
Ah,
till now?
Naveen, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Like running some what like a logging application inside one server. Like I allocated a server just to store logs in it,
Okay.
and I only use the boot disk that's available, like 4 GB or not 4 GB,
Okay.
16 GB. What happens? Like I want to increase the size. Can I not do it?
Okay. So you are talking about the data disk, right? Okay. Let me show this screen. Okay. This will give you a better picture. So default disk, whatever we have attached till now, it is the data disk. Okay. This is the 30 GB. Are you referring to this disk?
Uh, no, not this one. The one you told that is fixed. Fix it.
This is local storage, which they are giving, right?
Oh yes, yes, that one.
Yeah, so this you cannot, but why you would store something here? Okay, logs, if you're storing, obviously you want to refer that in future, right?
Oh,
So,
sorry. The
hmm,
local disk is unchangeable, and it is the mount
it
disk
is the
space.
mount. Okay, if I want to show you in Windows, same thing, I'll quickly show that as well. Wait. So D drive is a temp disk, which you get. Let this open. I'll show you here. Probably let's open File Explorer.
Okay, okay. It's
You
different. I
got
get it.
confused with this data disk, right?
I got the point. Can you also show me it for in Windows? It'll be
Yeah, I'll
useful.
show. Yes, yes. So you see, right? D drive is temp. Okay, 16 GB. Here also you'll see the same README file, which clearly says, okay, you should not store anything here.
Okay, got it now, and it's clear now.
Okay. Yeah. So this
Yes.
is a local storage, and OS disk is separate, which you can resize. Okay. Probably we'll see that also. For now, the other thing which, okay, before I go move on, any other questions? Yes, no.
Then what is why did Azure allocate such spaces for those instances? What can we use them for?
Anything which is not stateful, okay, so which can
Not
get
state.
recreated. Okay, let's say if so, are you from database background, SQL, or
Um, I'm mostly from SRE DevOps,
SRE
cloud
DevOps,
engineering.
right? Okay,
I think
so
I can get your point.
okay, so in SQL Server, right? One example which I can easily relate is, so we have SQL Server is a database product. Okay, so there
Okay.
is a system database called TempDB. Okay, so
Temp.
the yeah TempDB. Okay, the characteristic of that DB is whenever a restart happens, okay, a service restart happens, that file gets recreated. Okay,
Okay.
so it is one perfect example where I can keep those files there. Or let's say you have some batch processing, right, which has to stage some file temporarily and again process it. So you can use, or let's say I'm running some processing which I can rerun if it is broken. Okay, so those kind of things people will use that temp storage.
Okay, now we know. Got it.
Okay, so that is
Yes.
the use for that. Yeah. Okay, now what we will do is So we'll go to our Windows VM right now. So here disks are there. Now what? So far we have this OS disk, okay, which you see here. Okay, before I start the next one, right? So you guys have like 10 more minutes. If I extend it, is okay, because it's going to be an hour. But I just wanted to know if it is okay if I extend 10 more minutes.
It's okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
Okay, fine. I'll move on then. Awesome. Okay. Now we'll see how we can attach a new disk. Okay, so that talk about a different concept which I wanted to say. I'll just say data one. So remember we are doing it on VM2, which is Windows. Okay, just for this example, I'm going to attach additional disk. So far we have only the C drive and D drive, which is temp. Okay, I should have also added additional disk. Okay, anyways, let's wait. One is done. I am going to attach few more disks. Okay, just for the demo sake. And let's attach one more. And I'll go one more. All are like 4 GB. Okay, let's apply this. Now I should have 4 separate disks, right? On total, we have like 4 data disks which is attached to this VM. Okay. So in Linux also it's going to be same, but the way how we initialize alone it will be different. But for now, we'll go with this. Okay. Now what I will do? Okay, I have attached the disk, but wait, I don't see the disk here. So why it is so? Any guess like what I should do? We have attached the disk. Okay.
Disk management.
Okay, disk management, fine. Let's go. I usually have the habit of going from computer management and going to the disk management from there. But I think there is a shortcut for that as well, right? To open disk management directly.
Like all text, it shows there.
Okay, Alt X. Okay, fine. Okay, so here we see all the. Okay, I'll just cancel this window. Okay, so disk management from computer management, I go with this. Now if you see, we can see all the disk whatever we have attached. Okay, so starting from disk 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this case, um, once you see the disk here, it's going to be normal. So first we initialize the disk, right? So probably I'll go with all. Okay, and so I'll go with MBR. Again, this is like the partition type. For now, it's okay. It says like GPT partition style is not recognized by previous versions and all. That's fine. Okay, and I'm initializing. Now I brought the disk online, and let's say new volume. I'll go with the defaults. Okay, I'm not worried about this. Let's say new volume. I'll go with this. I'll also initialize other disk also. Just to show, okay, the disks are visible. I'm just doing this. Okay. New. Okay. So now we see all the disks which are available here. So all good. This is all normal things which we do. Okay. Now the question is, let's say my let's pick this one. Let's say my F drive is full. Okay. Probably let's assume this is full, and I wanted to resize this F drive. Okay. Now, obviously for resize, I have to come to the portal, right? Just remember, I can resize my drives, server and all. Okay. Now the scenario is, I have all these drives. F drive alone, I want to resize. Okay. So how I will know out of this 4 disk, which one is F drive? Any guess, anyone? If you have already worked, anyone wants to guess?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, maybe in the interest of time, I'll tell. Okay, so here you have this LUN number, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so just remember that number. Again, from the disk management also, for example, F drive is what I told you, right? Let's go to the properties. You have this LUN 0. Okay, similarly, if I take H drive, right? If I go to properties, you have LUN2. So this LUN2 is what? Data 3. Okay, so with the LUN number, you will be able to tell which disk is referred to which one. So though I initialized in the sequential order, but in real time, you might have a different scenario, but always go with this LUN number. Okay, and in this case, if I want to resize G drive, for example, let's stick with F only. Let's go here and LUN 0. So what I will do, this is my data disk. If I want to resize this one, I'll go here and settings, configurations, or size. Okay, since this is okay, let's try. So right now we have allocated 4. Let's click on 8. So it is updating my disk now. Let's see what happens once this is done. It is still updating. This should take a minute. Let's wait for it to complete. Do you think it's going to restart my VM?
No, it won't.
No? Okay. And if I have to do the same resize for my OS disk?
Then restart might be required, I guess.
Okay.
But no, in GCP I didn't do that.
Yeah,
No
in
restart is
GCP,
required.
yeah, restart is not required. Yes, you're right. But yeah, for disk resize for OS disk, here I don't think if VM is in allocated state, it will not allow. But yeah, we'll see that also once this is done. Okay, while this is going on, right, what we will do is, so in this VM, let's say now I have a requirement to add a new disk. Okay, let's say I want a new disk for a different purpose. Okay, so now, do you think we'll be able to do it? You see, the option is grayed out. Okay, so now let's wait for this. Again, it's not because of this option. Okay, this is nothing to do with that grayed out. So what happened here is this data disk, right? 4. Okay, so for depending on the VM size, with this only you will be able to determine how many data disk you can attach. Okay, since we have chosen this VM type, I can attach up to 4 data disk only, which I have already done. So intentionally only I attached this 4 disk, and that's the quota which is available for this VM size. If I want to attach more data disk, I have to resize my VM only. Okay, for this given spec, only 4 data disks are supported. That is what this data disk indicates. This is like how many number of disks you can attach to that VM. Okay, yeah. So for each VM series, this is going to vary, and that is what you see here. That's why this option is grayed out in our case. Okay, for some reason this is still going on. Let's refresh here. let's see if okay, it is just some UI things it is going on, but yeah, you can see this disk here, right? For F drive, we for this disk we have got another 4 GB which is unallocated. Okay, so that is how you can resize the disk. And now if I want to add additional disk, right? So only option is resize, because for this VM spec, this is the number of data disk I can add, and I have already added 4. That is why it is not allowing. Okay, probably I will do the VM resize also. Okay, it will not take much time. So what we can do is to do a VM resize, I have to stop this VM first, and then only I can do it. Okay, I think it is already like 12:10. We will stop here. Probably from the next session, we'll do the VM resize and all, and we'll also see few more concepts in VM, and then we'll start the networking part. Okay. Because we'll not extend more. Again, I have to stop, start, all those things we have to do. But yeah, this is the size we have, and we can resize the operating system and then start. Then I will be able to add additional VM. Okay, one quick thing which I'll tell you is before we close. So we have done a lot of operations, right? We did stop, start, and all, right? If you want to look what all operations we have done for a given VM. Let's say I'll take VM1, right? Go to activity logs. Here you will see what all things we have done. Okay. If someone has deallocated, it will also tell you who has done and what time it was done. All those details will be available here. Okay. So activity logs is something which is helpful if you want to if you are troubleshooting any outage, or if you want to check if anyone has done something, this is the place you can come and check. Okay, I think yeah, that's all I had for today. We are open for questions. Probably I'll stop the recording